Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
The House Prosecution Panel is set to read the impeachment articles against Vice President Sara Duterte next week.
Former Congressman Arnie Teves is set to be deported from Timor-Leste after being arrested for overstaying without a valid visa.
The MMDA says motorists are finally staying in line thanks to stricter surveillance under the no-contact apprehension policy.
The COMELEC is set to participate in a forum to discuss the recently concluded 2025 midterm polls and the upcoming barangay elections.
First in the news, the Atenito Coalition has successfully held its concert for peace aboard a ship in the West Philippine Sea. Here's the report.
On National Flag Day, the sea became a stage. Just off Pag-asa Island in the West Philippine Sea, the Atenito Coalition held a concert where music became a symbol of sovereignty.
Teritoryo namin to, ba't kayo nandito? Ito'y tahanan namin ibibigay.
Also performing, P-pop group Horizon, who said their music is more than just entertainment. It's a stand for what's right. As the concert unfolded, the Philippine Coast Guard monitored 3 China Coast Guard ships and 22 militia vessels near Pag-asa Island and Sandy Cay. But the Chinese ships kept a distance from the Philippine ship TS Capitan Felix Oca, which reached just 2 nautical miles from Pag-asa's shores by noon. Among the groups on the civilian mission was theater group PETA.
At pagpapakita dun sa ating mga frontliners, fisher folks, and mga coast guards and all that, na hindi sila nag-iisa, na meron silang ka-aliado, kaagapay doon sa buong pagharap sa usapin ng West Philippine Sea.
Also abroad was Kiko Aquino D, nephew of former President Noynoy Aquino, who led the Philippines to its landmark win in The Hague.
Wala na si Tito Noy, wala na si Lola Cory and Lolo Ninoy. Parang I think yung kumbaga yung kabanata na yun sa kwento ng pamilya namin, tapos na, no? So none of us are really interested in going back into politics. Pero ang hindi naman ibig sabihin nun is wala na kaming pake sa mga nangyayari sa bayan. So syempre, lalo na dahil yung arbitral ruling sa West Philippines is isang napakalaking legacy ng Tito Noy ko, I think it was very important na sumama po tayo dito.
Meantime, fishermen from Pag-asa welcomed the voyage. And beyond music, the coalition also brought aid, including over 200 liters of fuel for local fishing boats. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
The House of Representatives is looking into a proposal to shorten college to just 3.5 years. During a hearing yesterday, DepEd and CHED officials said 5 core senior high subjects could be renamed and aligned with college-level courses, while 3 others could be dropped entirely. This move aims to eliminate redundant bridging programs and reduce overall college course loads. The proposal comes after complaints that senior high graduates still face extra classes in college.
Now to discuss the proposal to shorten college years, we have House Committee on Basic Education and Culture Chair Congressman Roman Romulo joining us today. Good morning and thanks for joining us, Kong.
Yes, good morning, Angelo, Angela, and all your listeners, viewers. Good morning po sa ating lahat.
Yes, first and foremost, can you explain to us the rationale behind this proposal? Help our viewers understand this. Kong, nakamute po ata kayo.
First of all,
ayan, okay.
when the K-12 was proposed sometime, when the K-12 was first proposed and approved in 2013, the background behind that was really a commitment that the graduates of K-12 would be job ready and college ready. When we were reviewing the implementation of the K-12 through EDCOM and through the committees, we found out that not only did we extend basic elementary by 2 years, adding grades 11 and 12, but it appears that even in the college level, there were bridging programs that were introduced, lengthening also the stay of our students in college. That is why in the House of Representatives, we propose that we rationalize this, that we shorten basic education and take a look at the courses in college. And because of these hearings, it was discovered that there are redundant subjects, GE subjects that are still being taught in first-year college that can be brought down to senior high school or actually are already being taught in senior high school. So we urge DepEd and CHED to have a conversation on this matter. And fortunately, yesterday, they came back to the committee saying that they looked at the 8 remaining GE subjects in first-year college, and they discovered that 5 of those could be brought down to the new senior high school curriculum. And of the 8, 3 are actually already being taught at K-12. So that at 8 subjects, 3 units each, that's 24 units.
Yeah.
If fully implemented, that will reduce the 4-year course or a 5-year course by 1 sem. So a 4-year course should be 3 years and 1 sem. And we also asked for a commitment from CHED that their technical panels will not add any other subject anymore.
Wow.
And that commitment we got yesterday.
Kong, these redundancies, are these a product of yung pag-realign natin from K to 12 in the previous years na baka nagkaroon ng nakaligtaan in the past when we were implementing it?
Actually, Angelo, dati mas marami pa yung GE subjects. Ang nangyari, when they brought some of these GE subjects down to basic education, the technical panels increased the number of subjects sa colleges. That is why hindi na shorten. And then in EdCom 2, we recently got a study from PIDS, BITS, which said that in fact, yung mga inad na subjects po natin sa colleges, in fact, are over and beyond those that are required under global standards. That is why we took to task DepEd and CHED to be able to have a conversation. Hindi naman natin pwedeng pahirapan yung estudyante kasi sa totoo lang, what is important are the basics. What a Filipino family wants is quality education in order for them to get quality jobs.
That's right.
Hindi naman masyadong kailangan i-complicate pa.
Right.
Kung you were also saying kasi, no, I think, I don't remember where it was, but you said also na make no mistake, parang K-12 is still, will still be there, but you want sana, without all these revisions, magkaroon pa rin ng exit opportunity for those who feel na hindi na kailangan mag-college, gusto ko na magtrabaho, may option pa rin na ganun.
That is correct. Angelo, in fact, kung titingnan natin, meron na kaming napasa na bill sa Congress on third and final reading asking for an exit sa grade 10 after grade 10.
Grade 10, okay.
Pero during these hearings, these last 2 or 3 hearings, especially kahapon, Angelo, if you had listened to that hearing, ang sinabi sa atin ng DepEd, based on our recommendations, they took a look at their senior high school curriculum. And yung 5 subjects na GE sa first year college, ibababa po nila yon sa grade 11.
Okay.
5 sa, 2 sems. So 5 yan, first and second sem ng grade 11. Ang grade 12 nila, according to DepEd, will be made up of purely electives. Wala na talagang core subjects doon. And on the strength of that a revised proposal presented to the House yesterday, tinatanong natin din ng DepEd. Baka hindi na natin kailangan ng batas. Baka pwede magkaroon na tayo ng exit sa grade 11, after grade 11. Of course, ang preference namin grade 10. Pero kung after grade 11, because tapos na yung core subjects, baka pwedeng pag-aralan, magkaroon ng exit. Meaning, may option yung learner. Some learners would still want to go to grade 12, in order to get strengthened. Example, STEM subjects, pwede pa nilang strengthen, preparing them for college. Pero merong iba, siguro handa na sila, yun ang pakiramdam nila. So baka meron tayong test or competency test na magawa para from grade 11, may exit na sila, pwede na silang dumiretso ng kolehiyo. Effectively, that will cut it by a year and a half. Yung total studies mo from basic to college. Kasi kung exit is grade 11, isang taon yun sa basic education. Sa college ay magiging ano po yun, one sem. In fact, Angelo, Ma'am Angela, you will note, meron pa rin pinapakita sa amin ang CHED na meron kasing mga mandatory subjects by law na nasa kolehiyo. Maybe it's also about time for CHED to take a look at these mandatory subjects mandated by law. Baka naman meron na doon na pwede rin ma-recommenda sa amin na baka naman pwedeng gawing elective na rin yun. Ang punto dito is that ang importante kasi quality education for quality jobs. Sa pangkaraniwang Pilipino, importante at the soonest possible time, they get all the skills, they get the necessary foundational skills para makuha silang quality na work, hindi yung any work lang, pero kailangan kalidad na trabaho rin.
And by doing that as well, Kong, tatanggalin na to. I wanna clear this up to you. Yung bridging programs. Kasi apparently po pala, it's almost a decade na ginagawa ng ilang mga universities and college mga schools yung bridging programs. No? Parang ang nangyayari daw kasi, ang sinasabi nung iba, ay nagkakaroon ng K-13, ano, na may mga classes aside from in the college, may mga classes parang remedial classes or mga preparation classes para sa college. So wala na po yung bridging programs sa po na yon. Kong? Yan. Kong, are you still there?
Nag-freeze ata yung...
Okay. We're gonna try to
we hope
contact
kasi
him again.
medyo maganda yung topic.
Maganda yung topic because I think the first time na nagkaroon sila ulit ng hearing yesterday, diba, our mobile journalist Arlis de Los Santos was there. Doon nga, may mga consultations na ganap between DepEd, CHED as well, to make sure nga na ma-remove yung mga redundancies dito sa ating basic education program. Not basic education, but college education.
In essence, it's not shortening yung learning time. It's just really align mo from college. Kasi pinag-aralan mo na to, why not focus yung competency sa college? Tapos yung mga basic ed should have been done in high school na first. Parang ganon.
Kong?
I think Kong is back. Is Kong back?
We have you back? Kong? Are you there?
Ayun, wala pa. Signal for technical difficulty lang.
Yes. So, yun nga yung sinasabi natin. Yung kanina yung tanong ko nga din kay Kong about the bridging programs. Apparently, there are certain colleges and universities ang nag-implement nito. No? So, after, kunyari, nakagraduate na yung estudyante ng K-12. No? Pagdating nila doon sa university na yon, meron pala silang nire-require ilang mga universities ng bridging programs to make sure na prepared yung isang estudyante for college, which is parang nakikita din natin na redundant because it's already there sa K-12.
Ang nangyayari per college kasi may kanya-kanya silang yung mga subjects na pwede i-credit coming from another college. Sometimes pagpapasok ka, yung mga subjects na tinake mo sa previous college mo, wala silang counterpart sa college yung gusto mong pasukan. So gagawin sa'yo ng yung bridging program, dadagdag nila para bumangga ka sa units mo.
So ngayon, parang sinasabi nga nila, parang K-13 naman yun, di ba? Parang additional expense yun dun sa mga estudyante. Pero yun nga, can we check if Kong is back?
Okay na ata si Kong.
Kong?
Yes.
Ayun. Alright, so going back to my question earlier about the bridging programs, making sure na hindi na po pala ito gagawin kapag na-implement na po itong paikli natin ng college to 3.5 years. Tama po ba?
Yes, kasi dagdag na nga tayo ng 2 taon because of K-12. And I heard your conversation. Tama po yan. I think the original intent really was yung mga general subjects, yung mga common for all courses or programs, dapat yun talaga nandoon na dapat din sa elementary. Para katulad ng ibang bansa, other countries, other jurisdictions who really have it 3 years na naman talaga ang college.
Okay, so while we understand po yung wisdom behind the discussion of this issue, I would also like to take this opportunity, since you're here po, to ask you po, what are we doing naman po doon sa ating functional illiteracy issue, no, among grade schoolers, kasi I think that's also very important, that yung foundation pa lang ng estudyante before they go to high school and to college ay talagang mataniman na po natin ng maayos.
That is correct, Angela. In fact, we have been urging the Department of Education. Ang pinaka-importante kasi the crucial stage is really what we call the key stage 1, which is K to 3. Kasi dyan talaga yung phonetics, dyan talaga natuturuan ng pinaka-basic ng reading comprehension. Yeah. And of course, math basic skills. So we want to strengthen that. Looking at the curriculum, makita natin, you start grade 1, you start at 5 subjects. By the time you reach grade 3, you have about 9 subjects. So in fairness to the Department of Education, meron silang na-introduce, they were telling us a few years back, that meron silang bagong curriculum for Key Stage 1, which would really not only reduce the competencies, but ang importante na reduce the number of subjects para doon na tayo mag-focus sa functional literacy. So reading comprehension will be there, math, GMRC, and by grade 3, it will be with the science subject. So from 5 to 9 subjects, ang gagawin na, and it will be implemented according to DepEd. They have given us this assurance. Last week naman po ito, during a committee meeting also, that for Key Stage 1, grades 1 to 3, it will be 5 subjects for grade 1, 5 subjects for grade 2, and 6 subjects for grade 3, focusing really on functional literacy, meaning yung binabasa, naintindihan, reading comprehension, and math grade level appropriate.
Also, Kong, we've been speaking to a lot of sectors sa education about issues that are hounding or plaguing our educational system. Sabi nila, maganda daw yung ginagawang mga programs tsaka realignment. But isang problem daw is yung teachers who are teaching, may mismatch sila sa kanilang subjects that they're teaching, has contributed daw to functional yung illiteracy. Case in point, somebody who's not adept at mathematics is teaching math or yung English language, hindi masyadong magaling ng English. Are we coming up or thinking of measures that can address these issues?
That is correct, Angelo. Una kasi, kung makikita natin yung problem is, when K-12 came in, ang daming subjects na pinasok. Hindi lang po yan. They introduced this, what they call the spiral progression. It's a method of teaching subjects na sa totoo ay talagang hindi naman angkop yan sa bawat subject. Hindi rin siya pwede talaga sa bawat school. That should have been done on a case-to-case basis. So, anong nangyari? Talagang na-spread out rin yung subject matters, yung teachers natin. In fact, kaya kulang ng teachers Nangyari po talaga na-spread thin rin. And then, of course, it's still that mentality na importante ay makakuha ka ng mga subjects na mathematics, yung mga talagang parang mabibigat na pakinggan. At dati yung mindset rin Angelo, Ma'am Angela, was that the higher level that you're teaching, meaning parang doon na pupunta yung mga experienced teacher natin. But the key stage really is Key Stage 1. Yung grades 1, 2, and 3. That is where we need the best of the best ng teachers natin because dyan talaga malili yung foundation. So, I think talagang yung frame of mind kailangan mabago talaga ng DepEd sa ating public, sa ating guro, na dyan talaga dapat yung pinaka-experience nating teachers. Secondly, ngayon na nara-rationalize na medyo nakakat na yung subjects, hindi lang yung competencies. Now, DepEd should be able to put the teachers or assign teachers to their proper the subjects wherein they studied, they had expertise during their college years. Kasi yun naman po, in addition, Angelo, Angela, I also want to mention that DepEd, we urged EDCOM to urge DepEd and CHED to be able to introduce subjects sa kolehiyo, sa colleges natin, in order for them to specialize in the different new fields that must also be taught. So again, when DepEd rationalizes and cuts not only competencies but including the subjects, dito po I think it will be easier for them to be able to match the teachers
Right.
with the subjects.
Okay, so I want to go back po doon sa ating isa pang usapin kanina, yung sa shortening po ng college years natin. Will this apply po to all courses or selective courses lang po?
Well, it should apply to all courses simply because yung tinatanggal natin sa first year college are what we call yung GE subjects. Ito yung subjects na required for every student going through college to enroll in, to pass before they go to their different colleges, before they go into their different specializations. So it should apply to all students in college. I mean, incoming na po, no? Kasi, syempre, yung nandiyan na sa college, tapos na sila sa GE.
Right. But of course, ang question dito din, Kong, do we need extra funding for this curriculum change?
Again, if the curriculum is going to be reduced in college, I don't see why there will be a need. Secondly, if this will now be brought to senior high school, again, there were 8 remaining GE subjects. 3 of those, based on the perusal done by CHED, nandun na sa Araling Panlipunan, nandun na sa GMRC, and in one more subject. So yan, wala nang additional yun. Yung 5 subjects, if you recall, in fact, the senior high school program is already being reviewed, shortened, in terms of number of subjects, by the Department of Education itself. So funds have been allocated. Now, kung kailangan pa ng adjustment, which dapat hindi naman ganun kalaki yung adjustment kasi sobra nga yung subjects ng senior high school natin. If you recall, before they reduced, it was 16 core and 15 must electives. Okay. So from there nga, binabaan pa yun eh. Again, I'm sure may upskilling may konting retraining, upskilling. Yeah. But again, our teachers should have been prepared in their college years for these subjects.
All right. Until when po yung magaganap na committee meeting on this subject? And when can we expect the implementation of this proposed shortening of college years?
Yes, this will have to, yung para sa pilot ng senior high school, itong darating na academic calendar, itong June, magpapilot na sila in about a little more than 800 schools ang DepEd. Pero yung full implementation yan should come in the next academic calendar pa. Para sa colleges naman, yung pag-shorten, again, that will also have to come in the next academic calendar pa. Kasi papasok na tayo sa bagong academic calendar. It would be too short a time for colleges, universities, CHED, DepEd to adjust everything. Kailangan na sila ng konting palugid na panahon.
Again, we appreciate po yung mga ginagawa nating hakbang para po mas mapaganda pa ang kalidad ng ating edukasyon. With that, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Congressman Roman Romulo.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Now, in other news, Timor-Leste has issued an order for the immediate deportation of former lawmaker Arnie Teves. Here's the report.
Former Negros Oriental Congressman Arnolfo Arnie Teves was arrested at his residence in Dili City, Timor-Leste. A video posted by Teves' son Axel on Facebook showed the expelled lawmaker clinging onto his Portuguese lawyer as they were taken away by alleged immigration police. According to Axel, Arnie and his attorney were not presented with any documents nor given any explanation. The two are currently under custody of Timor-Leste's Interior Ministry.
They just came in forcefully. They took him out forcefully. He was illegally kidnapped and is now illegally detained.
Teves was among those charged in connection with the killing of former Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo and 9 others in 2023. Now the Timor-Leste government has ordered his immediate deportation. It cited Teves' lack of valid visa and the cancellation of his Philippine passport. Timor-Leste said Teves' prolonged stay without legal documentation poses a threat to national security and could harm bilateral ties and regional efforts to combat transnational crime. The government also imposed a 10-year ban on Teves' re-entry. Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police said they are prepared to detain Teves in their custodial facility if necessary.
Magpo-provide po kami ng mga pulis po nila. Meron naman po kaming security escort dito sabi ko, let us prepare yung custodial natin in case kailangan po ng DOJ na meron pong taguan soon si Tevez.
Alright, so syempre hindi naman nagulat pero kahapon yan ang laman ng mga balita. Yung video of the arrest of a former Congressman Arnie Tevez and saying na may mga violations daw of his right kasi wala daw arrest warrant na ipinakita.
Slightly surprised because the Court of Appeal sa Timor-Leste has issued yung writ of habeas corpus, diba? So in the midst of that writ of habeas corpus, biglang the Bureau of Immigration out of the blue, without any warning, di ba, kinuha si former Congressman.
Kasi di ba yung extradition na request natin was made last year pa. So, prior to that, wala pa naman talagang, kaya nga tinatanong natin yung DOJ kung ano yung mga ibang update nila regarding
pero mukhang
this, pero wala pa silang sinasabi.
Parang hindi ito sa because of extradition request. I don't know kung ito yun, because this is based on...
Yes, this is by virtue of, red notice by the Interpol.
Pero ang initial reasoning kasi ng immigration nila is he overstayed and wala siyang passport. In other words, stateless ka. So, parang pag red notice ito, huhulihin mo due to Interpol request. Pero he was caught on the basis na immigration law. Wala kang passport diba? You're overstaying So we'd like to clarify the circumstances that led to this. But we will monitor this and hopefully soon we can talk to Attorney Topacio.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. The House Prosecution Panel will formally present impeachment articles against Vice President Duterte next week. Here's a report.
Next Monday, June 2, House prosecutors are expected to read the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte. The Senate will also convene as the impeachment court, marking the start of the pre-trial process. But President Bongbong Marcos insists that if asked, he does not want an impeachment against VP Sara. However, he said he cannot tell his allies in the House on what to do.
How many times do you have to say that? I didn't want impeachment. Lahat ng kakampi ko sa Kongreso hindi nag-file ng impeachment complaint. Yung mga nag-file ng impeachment complaint, hindi mo masasabing kaya kong utusan o pagsabihan na ito yung gagawin mo. So, why do I have to keep explaining that I did not want impeachment?
One of the House prosecutors, Iloilo 3rd District Representative Lawrence Defensor, responded to the President's remarks. He said it is proper that the President does not interfere to avoid influencing the senator judges.
And I'm glad to hear that the President, as the head of the executive department, will not interfere with the impeachment process. As the President is the most powerful man in the country, he will exert undue influence on the senator judges, and we want the senator judges to act independently, free from any influence from the executive department.
However, Senator-elect Tito Soto, who will return to the 20th Congress, said the incoming senators may still debate whether the impeachment trial should proceed. The main legal question is whether the 20th Congress has jurisdiction over the case that started in the 19th Congress.
Ang suspensa ko, ang gagawin nila sa June 2 o June 3, kung ano man yung personada nila, mag-o-oath sila. They will constitute themselves as an impeachment court. And the 12 or the 24 members will take their oath as members of the impeachment court. Pero the work of the 12 who will end their term will end by June 13. And by June 30, hindi na sila member ng Senado. Except the re-electionist. So, pagdating ng July 1, hindi pa yan. July 28 pa lang, yung mga bago, kung sila ba ay mag-o-oath as members of the impeachment court, nakasama nito mga dati, or didibatihin nila yung issue yan.
But for Defensor, the trial must continue without interruption.
Tandaan natin na kapag nagtapos ang 19th Congress, ang nagtatapos lang ang aming legislative power. Hindi natatapos ang isang impeachment proceeding na nakahain na sa Senado.
Meantime, Vice President Sara Duterte and Senator Amy Marcos have arrived in the Netherlands. Senator Marcos posted a photo with Duterte on Facebook with the caption, "Hindi kalamigan basta't kasama ang kaibigan." The Vice President is expected to visit her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, who is currently detained at the International Criminal Court. Earlier, former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque confirmed that an event in The Hague is being planned for VP Sara's upcoming birthday.
Now, in other news, motorists have shown improved discipline following the implementation of the No Contact Apprehension Policy, or NCAP, according to the Metro Manila Development Authority, or MMDA. On major roads like Commonwealth Avenue, drivers, especially motorcyclists, are now staying within their designated lanes. The number of apprehensions caught on CCTV dropped from over 1,100 on Monday to under 1,000 by Tuesday, signaling better compliance. The MMDA said this improved discipline is helping ensure smoother traffic flow and increased road safety.
We'd like to see an EDSA na kung saan in its entire stretch ay meron talagang maayos na features for active transportation. That would include, for example, pedestrian lanes na covered, walkable, no, safe, no. In fact, mas maganda kung may mga tree-lined walkways.
Let's discuss the re-implementation of NCAP and the EDSA rehabilitation with Sentro ng mga Nagkakaisa at Progresibong Manggagawa, Secretary General Joshua Mata. Sir, welcome to News and Views. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Can you hear us okay?
Naghang ata. Sir? Naghang ata. Internet
pa rin.
Technical problem, technical issue. Yeah, yesterday we spoke with regarding yung EDSA. Sino yung guest natin?
Yung sa Move As One Coalition.
Move As One. And he was saying, kasi dito nabanggit yung 3 lines, di ba? Yung original design dapat ng EDSA long ago was
may mga trees,
may walkway, parang similar to similar to sa bayside ng ng Manila, Ross Boulevard. Oo, yung Baywalk. Similar to that. Yun ang original intent ng EDSA. Pero ang nangyayari daw sa EDSA naging highway hell daw ang hindi daw friendly sa motorista. Ayun, we have Sir Joshua joining us. Sir, thank you very much.
Can you hear us okay now?
Nakamute.
Yes. Hi. Hello. Hi. Good morning.
Yon, thank you. Sir, thank you for joining us, and let's get right to it. No, itong NCAP na to, and amidst the rehabilitation that will begin, how do you think for this year will affect in daily commutes natin?
Nag-expect ko kami ng mas marami pang problema dahil dito sa rehabilitation. And that's exactly why we are so worried. The government is spending 8.7 to rebuild EDSA, which is obviously long overdue.
Yeah.
But it appears that there is no clear plans from the government on how they can mitigate yung further pain and suffering that motorists and commuters are now already suffering from.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we're asking the Department of Labor to step up and call for a summit where everyone can actually be informed, and more importantly, where they can listen to the workers, the commuters, and the general public on what are the better ways to address yung problemang darating.
Yeah, one related to that, while we understand that we really need to fix EDSA, to its original intent, but madami nagsasabi that this 1 year repair where they will implement yung odd-even along EDSA, continued number coding sa general streets ng Metro Manila, may affect prices in the long term of yung daily commutes. Take a case in point, mga T-Invest natin, mga Grab, baka daw magkaapektuhan ang presyo because magsusurge lahat. Most of the cars will be subjected to this coding. Do you think there might be also a backlash na hindi tinignan ng mabuti in terms of how the prices will be affected?
Well, definitely. It appears like there's really no clear social preparation for this. In fact, we're asking the government to release its own simulations, if ever it has even done any simulations, kung ano talaga ang impact nito, so that people will know what kind of pain they are supposed to suffer. But more importantly po, I think we all deserve to understand, to know what are we sacrificing for. So they're going to ask us to suffer more pain for the next 2 years. And then what? What kind of EDSA do we see? Is this going to be a better EDSA, or is just another EDSA that continues to prioritize cars? What we want is an EDSA that is people-centric, that moves people and not just vehicles. Unfortunately, that's not the thinking that we see from government.
Now, a few days after po the NCAP re-implementation, ano po yung mga observations na nakita po ninyo in terms of yung how the commuters and the workers commute daily along that line? Ano po yung mga observation po na nakita natin?
Well, many of the riders na membro namin are saying na for them, naging mas difficult kasi nahihirapan sila na magpasikot-sikot, di ba? But some are saying na nakatulong nga ito sa pagdidisiplina ng ating mga mamayan. So probably it helps, no? But again, this is a different situation when it comes to, there's going to be a different situation by June 13 when they start shutting down yung isang lane ng EDSA.
Yeah.
You can just imagine the kind of Carmageddon that would create.
Yeah, well, I think no less than Secretary Vince Dizon said that it wasn't the goal in sa rehabilitation EDSA. The goal wasn't really no guaranteed to ease traffic, but parang ang plano nila is to rehabilitate EDSA in such a way to its old intent, like we were speaking to the other day, Move As One Coalition, that the original intention of EDSA was to be similar to yung Rojas Boulevard, yung may trees, may safe spaces for bikes and motorcycles. Kumbaga, you're saying people-centric. Is this okay with you kahit walang guarantees na traffic will be eased basta it's safer for everyone?
Well, obviously we need to rebuild EDSA talaga. Yeah. And we want to see an EDSA that's people-centric. So sa aking tingin, if people understand na yan yung vision that's being presented, that will help naman na maunawaan ng mga tao ano yung sacrifice na ginagawa nila. Unfortunately, wala nagpapaliwanag pa tungkol dyan. No? Kaya nga tingin namin, mahalaga talaga na may summit. And more importantly, sigurado ko, marami pa pong mga ibang ideas na pwede nating explore, pwedeng explore ng gobyerno at pakinggan ng gobyerno kung paano po yung ibsa na magiging epekto nito sa atin. So a summit is really what we need to do.
But can we hear, I mean, some of the ideas that they're looking at to help ease po para maging people-centric yung NCAP re-implementation and EDSA's rebuilding? Sir Joshua? Sir Joshua, can you hear us?
Maglalag ata yung
naglag ulit siya.
Yung internet.
Yeah, kasi we understand naman talaga yung agam-agam ng ating mga workers, ano. At minsan nga nakikita ko dun sa mga post ng iba na lagi na lang daw yung mga working classes ang nag-a-adjust, ano, pagdating sa mga ganitong klaseng operasyon. So yeah, we want to hear kung ano ba yung Sir Joshua, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
So
sorry about my signal.
Yeah. But going back to my question po, can we hear some of the ideas that you're looking at, no? Para po mas maigi or mas kumbaga mas maayos, ano, para po sa mga working class po natin?
Well, there's several things that obviously needs to be done apart from yung iba't ibang mga pinopropose na mga schemes ngayon, like for example, flexible work arrangement, which may be applicable for some, but obviously not applicable for many. For those who would necessarily have to travel, then there should be a plan on how to, for example, there should be a plan on how to provide for them in such a way na magiging convenient naman sa kanilang magbiyahe. Why can't we ask, for example, corporations who are able to do it to provide their own shuttle, no, and then allow the shuttles, buses then to use the bus lane. Maybe that's one idea. Maybe, you know, the other is that the obvious need para magbigay talaga ng ayuda halimbawa sa mga manggagawa, lalo na if magdodoble pa ang current na level ng suffering nila sa pagbabiyahe. You can just imagine, there are people who actually have to travel anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a day going back and forth just to work for 8 hours.
That's right.
Pag magdodoble pa ito, hindi ba dapat may ayuda na sila?
Actually, sir, yeah, you're right. No? May computation na yung current commute going 2 to 3 going to work and then another 3 going may even be during this year of repair magiging 8 hours. And I'd like to ask your thoughts on the current odd-even scheme which will be implemented in EDSA. Kasi ang dami na magsasabi, it's going to make things worse because during the rehabilitation, we all know EDSA would have only roughly around 2 lanes northbound and southbound. Yes. Naglagay ka pa ng odd-even scheme, so whatever vehicles could have passed in EDSA, you're loading it onto the side streets of the cities, therefore paralyzing movement daw in the cities itself. So, ano yung thinking mo about this? What are your thoughts about this?
Well, that's the reason why we're asking government to come up with simulations. Kasi ang hirap naman ng parang ang policy making natin ay alahoy. No? Hindi ba dapat pinag-aaralan na maayos yan? We're spending 8.7 billion. Can't we spend a little money para naman makita natin kung yung mga pinopropose nila ng mga policies na mga alternatives would actually work? I think a simple simulation can help us understand ano yung possible impact nito. Pangalawa, tingin ko may pagka-discriminatory siya in the sense na those who can afford it would obviously just end up buying another vehicle.
Right. Correct.
So that so that they can have vehicles that they can use every day for the entire week. But what about those na hindi naman nila kakayanin yan?
Tama.
So may pagka-discriminatory siya, di ba? Hindi may pagka unequal ang magiging effect nito sa mga tao.
Nakita po natin na sabi ng DOTR that they will add or they have added yung mga additional buses, tapos bagon, operational hours ng MRT.
Skyway,
libre yung Skyway. Do we see that on a positive side po para sa ating mga workers? Or kulang pa?
I think those things will help. I'm pretty sure those things will help. No? Lalo na kung kapapagamit natin ng libre yung portions ng Skyway that can be used para mag-detour yung mga tao. Of course, we will obviously end up paying something pa rin doon sa tollways na yan. Kahit hindi naman niya magiging libre talaga. I'm pretty sure that the corporations owning it would obviously ask government for something. And we as commuters will end up paying for it in one way or the other. But my point is, hindi ba po pwedeng pag-aralan mag-present sa atin ng malinaw na analysis at simulation, ano ang impact nito sa atin?
You've been, I want to follow this up. You've been mentioning about a summit between the government and other concerned agencies and also with the workers. Have you reached out to DOTR at least to have this summit?
I know that the MOVAS 1 has already proposed this idea. And we've been saying this even to the Department of Labor. But we have yet to receive any word about it.
What sparked my interest also, sir, was you mentioned about yung subsidy because yung current road time computation is at 6 hours for the general riding public. And now it may even reach 8 to 10 hours, which will require higher transportation expenses, may it be for gasoline or for commute fares. Have you spoken with private entities, other organizations about this financial impact? And what subsidies na pwedeng pag-usapan with the government in terms for the riding public?
Wala pa po kaming pagkakataon na pag-usapan yan with the Department of Labor. I think the Department of Labor right now is more busy consulting the businesses rather than the workers, unfortunately.
All right. With that, patuloy po kami makikipag-ugnayan sa inyo regarding this issue. But for the meantime, thank you so much for your time, Joshua Mata, Secretary General of the Sentro ng mga Nagkakaisa at Progresibong Manggagawa. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you po.
Quickly before we go, sana maganda yun na pag-usapan about yung financial impact and about what assistance meron pwede ibigay sa general riding public because mababawasan na naman ang sweldo nila.
And we understand talaga to ease the traffic is
but
develop a better mass transport system.
But yung financial impact,
pero ang problema
hindi tinignan siguro. Alright, don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Armed Forces Chief of Staff General Romeo Bronner dismisses rumors of an internal unrest. In a statement, Bronner declared there would be no coup d'etat under his leadership. He reaffirmed the military's loyalty to the Constitution and the chain of command. The general also warned against spreading disinformation that could undermine public trust in the military. Talks of internal unrest in the AFP have been swirling since the ICC arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte back in March.
The COMELEC will participate in a forum to discuss the 2025 midterm polls and the upcoming barangay elections. For the details, we have mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Hey, Merimon.
Magandang umaga sa inyo. So far dito ngayon sa isang news forum na pinangunahan nga ng Manila City Hall Reporters Association, kasama ang kanilang mga guests, sila COMELEC Chairman George Erwin Garcia. Nandito rin si spokesperson Attorney Rexel Bianco. At yung ilan sa mga napag-usapan na nga nila ay yung nalalapit na barangay and SK elections na kung saan yung supposed budget nga malungkot na ibinalita ni COMELEC Chairman Garcia na supposedly 14 to 15 billion daw sana ang budget nila for the BSKE, pero ang naibigay lang daw sa kanila ay 11 billion. So pagdating doon sa mga usaping lalong-lalo na sa honoraria ng mga guro na magsisilbi ding Board of Electors para nga sa halalan na yan, ipopropose pa raw nila ulit kung maaaring mabigyan pa ng increase at saka ng tax exemption itong ating mga kaguruan. Ang nakita rin nila ngayon, mas marami rin ang bubuksan ng voting precincts. So over 218,000 na mga presinto ang bubuksan para sa BSKE, kung saan each precinct, ang ina-expect nila is around 400 to 600 na mga botante. And compared naman daw nung nitong lumipas na midterm elections na over 700,000 na guro ang na-deploy o nagsilbi nga bilang BOE, ngayon naman nasa 1 milyon na mga guro ang maninilbihan sa BSKE. So far, pagdating sa timeline, yung filing ng COCs para sa mga gustong mga kandidato para sa kanilang mga halalan sa barangay, October 1 to October 8 ang kanilang filing of COCs. Ang campaign period naman, 10 days lang ito at tatakbo mula November 20 hanggang November 29. Ang election period for the BSKE magsisimula ito October 21 onwards. So asahan na rin natin yung gun ban, pati rin yung posibleng liquor ban sa mga linggong ito. Plus, ang election day naman para sa BSKE ay gagawin on December 1 from 7 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. At tinitingnan nga rin dito ng COMELEC yung application ng early voting kasi nakita nila na naging effective ito nitong lumipas na midterm elections para sa mga kapatid natin na PWD, senior citizens, even yung mga pregnant women. Inaasahan din na sa paparating naman na registration for voters kung saan July 1 to July 11 maaaring magparehistro ang mga botante. Over 1 million naman yung inaasahan nila na magiging bagong botante. Pero pagdating doon kasi sa isa kasi sa usual requirements sa mga ito ay yung barangay certificate para ma-prove mo na nagkabilang ka talaga o namamahay ka doon sa o residente ka doon sa barangay na yon. Tatanggalin daw ito ng COMELEC kasi nakita nila sa mga lumipas daw na buwan nakita nila na yung paggamit daw ng barangay certificates ginagamit daw ito ng ilang mga nangangandidato para daw manghakot ng mga botante. So ngayon ang titignan dito nakakailanganin na lamang para sa mga magre-rehistro bilang botante mga valid IDs na lang daw. Sinasabi naman nung ilan at na-address nga ni Chairman Garcia, may concern nga raw iba dito na bakit hindi na lang daw yung barangay certificate. Sana, ang nasabi naman ni Chairman, may gastos din naman daw ito. So, mas maganda kumuha na lang daw ng postal IDs, senior citizens, even mga student IDs para raw mas garantisado at mas tapat daw yung kanilang pagpapakita ng citizenship doon sa lugar na yon. So far din, ang inaabangan pa natin na mapag-uusapan naman ay yung nalalapit din at makasaysayan na parliamentary election sa Bangsamoro, Autonomous Region and Muslim Mindanao. Pero sa ngayon wala pa tayo nakukuha ang impormasyon dito at yun yung mga abangan natin sa mga susunod na oras. Balik sa inyo.
Thank you. That was a mobile journalist, Merimon Reyes. President Bongbong Marcos visited the National Food Authority warehouse in San Ildefonso, Bulacan on May 28. He was accompanied by Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel and NFA Administrator Larry Lacson. During the visit, Marcos met with farmers who raised concerns about being underpaid by traders for their harvested palay. He said he will study implementing a floor price to ensure farmers receive fair pay and to protect their livelihoods, highlighting its importance for food security. Marcos also emphasized the need for ongoing dialogue between the government and farmers to ensure policies meet their needs as part of efforts to strengthen agriculture and secure the food supply.
Now, there's something new in Fort Santiago in Manila, a climate art installation called Blue Lanterns. That's a project between the Philippines and France aimed at addressing the issue of climate change. The story from Mobile Journal, Denise Valdesancho.
Ganap na ngang inilawan ng climate art installation na Blue Lanterns dito sa Walled City. Simbolo raw yan ng joint commitment ng France at ng Pilipinas upang tugunan ang mga hamon pagdating sa usaping climate change at pagprotekta sa karagatan.
From Manila to Nice, please protect our oceans. Yan ang mensahe ng mahigit 1,000 solar lanterns na nagbigay buhay sa historic Fort Santiago kahapon. Gawa yan lahat sa recycled, durable at readily available materials. Bunga ito ng kampanyang 100 Days for the Ocean na inilunsad ng French Embassy, kasabay ng ika-10 anibersaryo ng makasaysayang Manila Call to Climate Action ni na dating Pangulong Noynoy Aquino at French President François Hollande.
So this is I would say, the culmination of our 100 days of mobilization for the oceans. We thought these blue lanterns were really the symbols of what we want to achieve: sustainability, solidarity.
Binigyang diin ni French Ambassador Marie Fontanelle ang long-standing partnership ng dalawang bansa at ang kahalagahan ng kanilang pagtutulungan sa mga issue.
We do really face together the challenges of the ocean, be it biodiversity issues, plastic pollution, also the issues of freedom of navigation at sea, the challenges of blue economy, illegal fishing, etc. You face yourself many incidents in the South China Sea, for example. So it's important, since the challenges are growing, that we are stronger and stronger to advocate in favor of more of international law.
Bukod dyan, nais din nilang bigyang pansin ang kakulangan sa public funding, maging mga hamong pang-agham. Nakadisplay ang art installation sa Fort Santiago hanggang June 2. Plano rin itong iikot sa iba pang bahagi ng bansa. Mobile Journal, Denise Valdesancho po. Hatid ang mukha ng balita.
Yan, pwede dalawin yan in the family. Oo, di ba? Kakaibang display. Until when daw, di ko narinig tuloy.
Tanong natin kay Denise.
Mamaya message natin si Denise. Alright, well, that wraps up today. And before we let you go, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. Melody Beatty. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.